Warming world affects every city, but some are more vulnerable than others. The rising sea level will cause devastating floods that will destroy buildings, devastate infrastructure, and take lives for low-lying coastal cities. It is estimated that by 2100, global cities could flood by more than 6 feet. As a result of global emissions, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has predicted that sea levels may rise by 10 to 12 feet. However, these are averages, so some areas may be affected more than others. If the worst-case scenario occurs, some cities could even sink underwater. Before continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest videos. Let's begin. New Orleans. New Orleans still hasn't fully recovered from the catastrophic damage of Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The city's location on a river delta makes it vulnerable to flooding and sea level rise. Some areas lie 15 feet below sea level. Though wetlands have shielded New Orleans from storm surges in the past, that buffer has gradually been destroyed by human activity. Much of the city's land is already sinking. A 2016 NASA study found that certain parts of New Orleans are sinking at a rate of 2 inches per year, putting them on track to be underwater by 2100. Miami. Home and road damage are already occurring as sea levels rise quickly enough in the city. The Union of Concerned Scientists suggested in a report from 2018 that 12,000 homes in Miami Beach face a chronic threat of flooding within the next 30 years. That puts around $6.4 billion worth of property at risk, the most of any coastal community examined in that report. A 2016 study published in the journal Nature Climate Change also identified a super concentration of at-risk residents in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. According to that research, these counties could account for 1 out of every 4 people affected by sea level rise in the U.S. between the years 2010 and 2100. Even if seas only rise by the most conservative estimates, the city might have to raise its structures to stay above water. Houston. Like New Orleans, areas of Houston are sinking at a rate of 2 inches per year. The main culprit is excessive groundwater pumping, which creates a change in pressure and volume that prompts the land to sink. This makes the city more vulnerable to flooding like the kind experienced during Hurricane Harvey, which damaged nearly 135,000 homes and displaced around 30,000 people. Since Houston isn't a coastal city, it's unlikely to be wiped out by sea level rise alone. But an increase in storms and hurricanes, combined with its low elevation and sinking terrain, could cause parts of the city to be underwater frequently in the future. Atlantic City. Atlantic City is no stranger to coastal flooding. The city was ravaged by Hurricane Sandy in 2012, which left around 70% to 80% of the city underwater at the height of the storm. In some places, residents had to wade through water as deep as 8 feet. The city is one of the U.S. most vulnerable areas when it comes to flooding. Research from Climate Central suggests that 37,000 people are at risk of coastal flooding in Atlantic City in the next century. Its neighbor, New York City, could also see some areas flooded by 2100. Charleston. Charleston is even more vulnerable to flooding than Atlantic City, with around 64,000 of its residents at risk of coastal flooding in the next 100 years. More than a decade ago, the Charleston City paper predicted that the city could become a half-drowned ghost town by 2050. Under 12 feet of sea level rise, the paper reported around 77% of the Charleston could be underwater. Boston. Boston may not be entirely submerged by 2100, but the city as we know it would cease to exist. A report from National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found that 1 out of 6 homes in Boston could be underwater by 2100, and has also said there's a near certain likelihood that Boston will see at least 1 flood above 6 feet by 2050. Virginia. Virginia Beach sits at the intersection of the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. As sea levels rise, Both bodies of water threaten to inundate the city during a major storm. The city is already witnessing one of the fastest rates of sea level rise on the east coast if you factor in both rising water levels and sinking land. In its most extreme projections, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration estimates that Virginia Beach could see up to 12 feet of sea level rise by 2100. In 2018, Hurricane Florence briefly transformed Virginia Beach into a water-soaked wasteland, and we already have a glimpse of what the area might look like during a disaster.